Ready.
Hello everyone. My name is Ivan Kanyez, and I'll be the moderator of today's program. And it's another couple series on our TITO platform. I want to welcome each one of you, those on YouTube and those on Zoom, from wherever you are. Those are joining from the US, from the UK, Rwanda, Uganda, and all other areas of all other areas which you are residing in. So feel comfortable, make yourself easy enough, and feel free to ask any questions. You can write in the inbox, you can raise your hand. We'll be able to um, pick you up. So without further delay, um, I want to welcome our main participants who are Beth and Eric Nshimiye from the US. And I'll start with a question. And this is just a part of the introduction for us to know you better. Um, Question number one. Can you briefly share, or before even I go into the questions, how are you doing?
You're doing good.
Everything great. How are you?
Yeah.
Hello
Um,
to everyone here.
yes, I might have said you're from the US. I don't know if you can briefly tell us the life you live in the US, the kind of uh, you know, how long you've been there, stuff like that. Or is it that you've just come in, or you're on a visit, or you just living? There's things around that. Yeah.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. My name is Eric Nshimiye. It's my wife, Elizabeth.
Mm,
We're so glad to be here with everybody and have a fruitful discussion.
mm,
Um, I've been in the US before many of you were born, I'm sure, on this call. So I moved here in 98 into the US and uh, uh, went to school here and now I work as an engineer
mm,
in this place here. So we live in Texas in northern Texas, Fort Worth.
mm,
That's where we call home,
mm.
away from home. Yes.
That's lovely.
You say something?
Thank you, set it up. Okay. I came a year later. I moved here in 99 and we used to live in Michigan. So
Mm,
we're in Texas. We've been here for 5 years
Yeah.
now. And we have 3 children.
mm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Been married for
It's going to be
18
18
years
years
in
next week.
on the 24th.
Yeah.
That's quite an experience, and I believe
Yes, it
for many of us here who are young,
is.
you'll be feeding us with
Yes, yes,
with all
a
that
lot.
as we move ahead. Okay.
Absolutely.
Our first question would be, we're still on the introduction, by the way. Can you briefly tell us how you met, a little bit about your journey together as a Christian SDA Adventist couple?
Okay.
Uh, our meeting is will I think everybody will say they are part, but
Mm.
if you ask me, I met him here in Michigan. Our dads were roommates
Mm.
in at Andrews University.
Mm.
So when we came, when they came, they separated. His dad's family came, they came. So my dad had to move out, and a year later we came. So they came to visit us when we
Mm.
had just arrived in the US. That was the first time we met, and
Mm.
yeah,
Yeah,
I don't
that's
know
a,
how far you wanted to go.
yeah.
I think maybe excuse me if I'm being quite modern. There
Yeah,
is that question where they say the spark,
Ah,
yeah,
maybe the rest was history. Something
yeah,
around those lines. You don't have to say much. When you
yeah.
identify that she is the one or he is the one, and
Hmm.
like the rest say, It has
Yeah.
history since after then. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So for me, I used to be a pianist
Mm,
at Kigali English Church back in the 94, 95 time there. When I would come from Bugema from school,
mm,
I would be a pianist. But now I'm an introvert mainly, so I don't really talk a lot to people. But I had noticed her with her friends,
mm,
amongst her friends, and she had not seen me, even though I was the one playing the piano that day. But
mm,
I was one of those quiet guys.
mm,
And I wanted to talk to her, but she's a very social person,
mm,
and social people are never isolated. So it was hard for me to get to that point where I can talk to her. It's only until they moved here is when we were neighbors and
mm,
we began to talk. Um, and as you begin to talk to somebody, you discover certain things about them that
mm,
interest you and set them apart from everyone else.
mm,
And that was the beginning of the spark because I felt that she was consistent and she was really true who she is.
mm,
She did not try to sugarcoat anything. She was very direct.
mm,
Uh, and for my personality, who tends to be very diplomatic, very, I try to leave the place intact. She is okay with you telling you as it is, and you
mm,
deal with the consequences, but she will tell you the truth.
mm,
I liked that. That to me was the beginning, and that set her apart. And
mm,
from there, it just the chemistry just happened, and yeah, we just went on from there. Yeah.
mm,
Yeah. And yeah, I loved how consistent he was. He asked me out like shortly after, and
mm,
I told him, "You don't know me. You cannot be asking me out."
mhm,
Yeah.
But he was consistent even after I said no. He became a friend. We became best of friends,
mm,
and I started praying about it. I don't know about him,
mm,
and and I asked for several signs, and everything came true. But his consistency was and kindness. He was very kind and thoughtful and consistent, regardless of what is going on. Like even though he wasn't getting what he wanted, but he
mm,
was still
mm,
consistently pursuing me
mm,
in whatever zone I'd put him in. Like the
mm,
friendship zone, he was as a true friend and not pushy.
mm,
Um, and and being there for me in any
mm,
way that I needed him to be there for me.
mm,
And that was a very, very, very good flag for me.
mm.
Mhm.
That's quite nice. So, how, if we talk about faith fitting into this journey, um, how has faith and Adventist values influenced your relationship from back then and maybe to this date? I believe it might be one of the rocks that you still lean on. Because relationships, as you know, it's a lifetime. And one of the things that we always have to lean on are the values that we both share. But in this particular case, our Christian values as SDA. So how have they influenced your relationship? Mm,
So we both come from Seventh Adventist families. His dad is a pastor, my dad is a pastor. So you can tell like the values
mm,
strongly influencing
mm,
our marriage. And
mm,
a funny story, actually how our relationship grew even stronger was that we were neighbors. They moved where
wow.
we were living,
Mm,
and my dad, bless his heart, he he would wake up so early and make us breakfast and help us get ready for church. And he
mm.
would say, when I get in that car, if you're not in that car, I'm leaving you. So he get himself ready and sit in the car and honk the horn once.
Mm,
And we would run out of the house with our shoes and purses and makeup, everything in the bag so that it doesn't leave us.
Mm,
When Eric moved where we lived,
mm,
he decided to be coming to pick us up, my siblings and I, to go to church. Like,
mm.
don't worry about it. I'll come pick you up so we don't have to rush. So he would literally come and wait for us to get ready and take us to church. And that was one of the sweetest things I liked about him.
Mm.
Not rushing us, uh, patiently waiting, and we still would make it for Sabbath school.
It
Wow.
still would. It
We
still would.
would Sabbath school, make it for church on time, and but not in a rushed way. And
Mm,
also we share the love of music. We both, since we're teenagers, we both sang and played instruments in church. So our love for gospel music is also strong, and we're trying to pass that on to our children.
mm,
Um, yeah, going to youth camps and youth conferences together.
Yeah.
That used to be a really cherished activity we did together. And
mm,
as now as a family, we try to create a safe environment for young people to come to our home. We open a home for young people to come truly be themselves, ask questions, just come eat and play and, go their merry way. Yeah,
mm.
I feel like it's important because when we're young, we had people pouring into us, and I feel like it's important to give us. We feel
Right.
like it's important
Right.
to give back in that
Right.
way. Mhm.
Yeah. So, thank you. Yeah, those were wonderful memories. So picking them up in the mornings and taking them to church. One thing that I'd like to add on to that is that in our marriage, what we have decided to do is
Mm,
to make sure that we can discuss any biblical topic
mm,
without judgment,
Mhm.
without fear,
mm,
without feeling like just because you are looking at something from different angles,
mm,
you are doing it wrong. No,
mm,
we use the way Jesus approached the truth.
mm,
And we always invite him into our discussions to make sure no matter what topic we're talking about,
mm,
feel this is a safe space to talk about it.
mm,
And what's interesting is when you do it that way, you come out with a deeper appreciation of the love of God and in the interpretation of what love truly is. It's
mm,
that safety, it's that peace that you're given when you can openly discuss these kind of things with each other.
mm. That's very good. I think the keywords there, patience, consistency, and approaching things with the Christ-like way he did it. So those are two wonderful things that I've picked up from there, and I believe everyone else there has done the same. So going to I think there's one part we didn't kind of touch on of the children.
Mhm.
I think you mentioned you have 3 children,
Yes, yes, we have 3 children. Yes.
girls,
So
or mixed.
so we have our oldest is a girl. She's a teenager now,
Mm,
almost 16.
wow.
Then I have a son, he's 11. Then I have a younger daughter, 10.
Oh,
Who said
that.
she's a teenager, following the older sister.
And
Um, mhm.
mm, so
Go
just
ahead.
maybe to follow up on that part and looking at, I believe both of you grew up from the African setting.
Yes.
By the way, you said Bugema. I was also in Bugema, but in Bugema Secondary. I don't know if it was secondary or
I
university.
was in secondary, yes. I
Yeah,
am young too. I was in
unfortunately, I
secondary.
might have come when you had already gone.
I know. I
So
left my
yeah,
books there, yes.
yeah. So growing
Yeah.
up from there and having the relationship in another country whereby the values are quite different, much as there is that part of going to church, but I believe there is also that part where you have to adjust to the environments you're
Right.
in. So are there areas that you would have to navigate around, given that there's also a culture effect to it, that much as we're Christians, but you're Rwandese,
Mhm.
having that kind of roots and culture. of how, it kind of has an impact as a way in one way or another. So I don't know if you can comment a little bit on that as well.
Yeah. Okay, I'll comment, then the wife will also add on to this. So you're right. When you're here in the diaspora, a lot of the things that we grew up learning, sometimes our kids look at it as irrelevant. They'll say that this is the old way, this is the new way of doing things. However, our duty as parents is to show the relevance of Christ in their lives, even today, regardless of where they are, what culture they're in. And the way you do that is and I try to, you have to be intentional about everything you do about on this front. From the church you go to, you got to look at the environment of that church. Is it not just nurturing to you, but also nurturing to your children?
True.
We have this tendency of feeling that if I go to a certain church, because they have a good Sabbath school program, that is the reason why I need to take my kids to this church. Whereas they'll go there and you find that what they're being taught actually the messaging is not really spiritual. It's more of putting them in a certain category in society.
True.
So picking the right church is important, not just for your own edification, also your children. When it comes to school, especially public schools, right? Even private, same thing. But in public schools, they are now in a different environment again. That's where having a church family is key for the children's growth, because they will come back on Sabbath and talk about the experiences in school, but then they have a core group of kids they go to church with, and they can share the experiences. True. And realize that in the context of things, they're not isolated, they're not alone. A lot of times peer pressure comes because a kid feels that they're alone and not part of a group that shares the same vision. And so that's the reason why we're very intentional with the churches we picked, was to make sure that the kids are in a place where they feel safe, they feel they can identify with, because they're more of the, is it called a third culture? I don't know how they call these kids. Yeah. So they look at their parents and like, okay, I go home, I eat this, and then there's, all these things. But the key is to make sure that we're very intentional with this, with the society and what we show our kids, our examples. Yes.
Yes, and on that note, I feel like Eric and I don't know if I can say lucky enough, but like we can identify with our kids. We both grew up in foreign lands, just like you. So we've never, we are always othered.
Yeah.
So even when we moved back home in Rwanda, but Bagand.
Yeah.
Now that we've lived in the US, you go diaspora, and when you're here, that African, you're not even just Rwandese, you represent the whole continent of Africa. So in that way, we can identify and we can empathize with our children and create spaces and be intentional about creating spaces where they can feel truly themselves and be with people who are like them. We don't take it for granted. I know even with schools, it's not just about which school district is the best. No, what's their diversity looking like? Is my child going to be the only Black child in that room, in that classroom? Is she going to be the only Black child with African parents from African descent? It all matters to us, and it's very important in shaping who they are and who, in order for them to be truly who God created them to be, without spending so much money in therapy, avoiding that in the future. Yeah.
Lovely. Thank you very much. So we go into the first segment. Much as some of the questions looks like we might have touched them on, but for part of the protocol of the questions we have, I'll share them. If there is anything we've already mentioned, maybe we can we can skip or even adjust accordingly. So this is the segment where we're talking about navigating dating and relationships. And the first question is, what biblical principles guide your approach to dating and relationships? So what biblical principles guide your approach? And I believe this could be like a perspective of how you view dating or relationships, like in a biblical way. Yeah.
So if we were to look at how dating was done in the Bible, it's very different from what's happening today. But we all can see that. And probably if it were happening the way it was happening in the Bible today, many of us wouldn't agree with it. However, there are some underlying principles there that I would like to highlight. And I always draw to the principles when Christ came to the earth. What he was trying to show us was how to build a relationship with Christ. That's the first thing. Start from there. When you are dating, there are a few things you want to look, you're trying to look for. You're looking for, of course, love is key. You're also looking for, is this person consistent with their beliefs? Are they real? Are they honest? Can they be honest with me? Can they be open? So as much as dating sounds like dinners and all this stuff, those are just, I'd say, just the periphery of what's really should be happening. It's more of having the tough discussions while you still have the opportunity of saying, you know what, I think this cannot go. You know? And not shying away from those tough discussions, whether it's money, whether it's belief systems, you know, because if you look at those things that people make dating sound like the time when you are in this semi-honeymoon phase where no one is being who they are, but instead it should be a point at which you know, once you have identified this person, saying, you know, this is the person I want to get to know a little bit better, you now start the process of building that relationship. Now, there's a risk with that also, because there are times when you might be a little bit too open to somebody, and that person ends up not being the person that you end up with, and then you're stuck with them because you feel that because I've revealed so much about myself to them, I am kind of, you know, it's a risk to end this relationship. It's let me just continue with it. So that's where you need to look at when the dating phase is done, and now you're at the point at which now you're looking at marriage. There's certain things that will be reserved for marriage, but there's a lot that you will be able to catch early on. A person's generosity, how they treat people, if it's not you, how they talk to it could be something very simple as a parking attendant at a garage, and how they talk to them, or someone cuts them off, or just something small like that. You watch their behavior, that will already begin to tell you something in that phase. So I think that in terms of biblical perspective, we're looking at the building of relationship portion of it, where when Christ came, he started out from where we were and started building the relationship before he now go to the deep stuff after the resurrection. You see, so building that initial phase. Yeah, so that's kind of how I look at it. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Biblically, I think the most important thing God has given us or told us to do is to love him and to love his people, right? So, and love covers a multitude of things. So faith, I don't know if everybody on here is Adventist or not, but like your faith, how much does it matter? Your biblical truths, the things you stand on, what's the word I'm looking for? How important are those things to you? Is this person in agreement with the truths that you know or hold dear to your hearts, right? Are we headed the same direction? Because if we are not headed the same direction, yes, it might work, but it's going to be friction. It's going to be hard, you know. Marriage itself is hard enough, but like if you're not agreeing on the same things, it makes it even harder, way harder. So are we headed the same direction? Is he who he says he is? Because doesn't matter, just because you met the person in church doesn't not make them a Christian. Or maybe that day he felt sorry, I need to go confess my sins, but like truly they don't live their beliefs, or they don't. You know, when the Bible says do not be unequally yoked, that also applies in a Christian journey and or beliefs, right? We can all be Seventh-day Adventist, but he might be Seventh Adventist who doesn't even go to a restaurant on Sabbath, who doesn't, who has to be at church from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m., and you might be I'll go to church, the sermon is over, I'm out. I don't go to Sabbath school, I don't go to this and that. And those things will create friction in the family. Yes, you hold the same truth, core truth, but you don't practice it the same way. So you have to look at all those things and think, will this affect me long term? Maybe right now it won't affect me, but after the kids come, will this be an issue if I have to be early up in the morning by myself, getting the kids ready, taking the kids to Sabbath school by myself, and he stays behind, or he's a once in a month Sabbath goer. All those things, you have to think about them before you think and talk about them, if it makes sense, if this person is loving you and loving the people in his life the way Christ says to do, and he's loving God the way you think. Well, nobody's perfect. I'm not saying look for an angel, but I'm saying, are you in agreement? And if you're not in agreement, will this cause friction in the future? So look at it and decide from there.
I think there's an interesting thing both of you have touched, especially there's a common word that says people can always act, but we always want to see how they react, because I might act like this,
Yes,
might not necessarily mean that I react to things the same way I act.
right,
I think I kind of touch it very well, because I'm in a dating phase, for example, especially when things are quite, broomy and, everything is exciting. Most of the times, couples or young people tend to act, and we miss out on the part of reacting. So as a follow-up question, if you can share more light, I don't want to, because the experience is with you, I don't want to take that, but I believe that's something along the way you've seen, and it's one of the areas you've navigated as well. So maybe as a follow-up, how do you deal with that, or how you view it in your perspective? Yeah.
I don't want to see it as acting. I want to see it as putting your best foot out. We all have strengths and weaknesses, right? But when we're in the dating phase, and that's something, I don't know about everybody else, but that's something I never wanted to do. I'm always who I am day one, and I have to know that I'm not for everybody and everybody is not for me, right? So if I show up truly as myself, I don't have to act.
True.
So what most people do and what people fall into is this, I have to show them my best self, He can't see me without makeup on. Okay, so you're gonna keep up this appearance, like you're gonna wake up before he wakes up to go put on makeup, or you're gonna go be going to bed with makeup on. Let him see who you are with your wrinkles and your crooked eye, crooked lip. John, just let people appreciate who you are, the way you are, and let them choose if they like this, if your weaknesses are bearable to them, and So how to deal with it, how to handle that, in my opinion, is no one can put on a show for a long time.
True.
Period. So take your time. You know, we all bloom at different times. Don't act like your world is falling apart because you turned 30 and there's no man or there's no woman. No, you know, some people get married at 23 and they're out. They're divorced by 25. But take your time, in his time, um use the spirit of discernment. God has given that to us. Don't fall into traps of, oh, time, okay, I'll never find the perfect person. He's kind of okay, she's kind of okay. No,
Yeah,
you
like
know,
settling and
don't
stuff. You
settle.
don't want to do that. Yeah.
It's a lifetime. And Abanyarwanda, I'm assuming we're already on here. My mom used to use this proverb a lot. She used to say, "Ushatse nabi apfa kabiri." So take your time. It's okay, break it off. If you're seeing red flags that are becoming red flags, call it a day. You can keep a friend, but divorce is expensive.
Yeah.
Don't. Time, like, to answer you, time is everything.
True.
If you don't like something right now and somebody's putting their best foot out and you're still feeling like, get out, because that is gonna be, you know.
Yeah, you can't, yeah, you're in that situation where it's really way worse.
Yeah. It just gets worse.
That's exhausting.
It's
I mean, it's exhausting, honestly.
Be yourself.
It's okay.
What I'm not condoning people showing up with ugly behavior and saying, this is who I am, right? We're all growing and trying to be the best people we can be. But what I'm saying, before I get there, right? If my being late is annoying you to the bone, and this is me trying to impress you, we are not going to work, because once I'm there, this is going to be me consistently. And this is you who's taking me on a date for once a week or twice a week. You know, we're just dating, we're not staying together, but this is going to be me on a daily, and you're going to have a headache every day. So look at those things. Can I live with this? If this woman doesn't change ever, am I okay with how he eats? Like, is that gonna annoy me for the rest of my life? If it's gonna annoy you and he's not teachable, get out of it. And even if it's teachable, are you okay living with that if he doesn't change? If this woman is too loud, aka me, it's too loud for you right now, she's gonna be in bed reminding you about things that didn't get done, or or oh my God, are you okay with that? And if you're not, get out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, just in a few seconds, what you need to do is understand what your boundaries are.
Yeah.
Right? Understand what your boundaries are. What can you live with? Like what you just said, what can you live with? And I think when you are in the dating phase, there's going to be that blindness of saying, oh, you know what, it's going to get better. I always like to think about it as you're here, you're also going to change. They're also going to change. Yes. But what you have right now is what's going to help you make it through that change. But if you have not developed that love, that acceptance, and saying, you know what, I'm okay with this. This is something that is not going to give me a problem. It's not, the way you can know your boundaries, you'll feel something in you. And you keep ignoring that. That is actually a boundary you're ignoring, and that's going to bite you later. So make sure you listen to that voice. That's the Holy Spirit talking to you, saying, hey, that's a boundary for you. It might not be for somebody else, but for you, it is a boundary. Ignore it, it's going to bite you later. So yeah.
Thank you. I think we've touched a little bit on question 3, but I'll leave it, we'll ask it later on. But just to welcome other people that are joining in, and I'm requesting those who have joined to mute their microphones, because it's kind of getting into the disruptive mode. So on the second question, how do you prioritize purity, integrity, and respect in your relationship? How do you prioritize purity, integrity, and respect in your relationship?
One thing that when you look at your spouse, you realize this is a child of God, first of all. It's somebody that God has put into your life and you are in their lives. And you once you put God in among the three of you, or among the two of you, you realize that the person takes on their own uniqueness and their own importance in the eye of God. So it's not like in my case, my wife is not just mine now. Whatever, do this for me, do that for me. This is somebody that God has put into my life, and I have responsibilities in that relationship. When you look at it from that perspective, and I always like going back to the teachings of Jesus, how even though he had immense power over all the people around him, he still understood that those are children of God. And how he to people, how he taught people. He did not come from a condescending area and saying, you should have known this, you should know this. He always came from an angle of love. And I think when you realize that, you realize that your spouse has independence. They're unique. They're on their own person. Their likes cannot be your likes just because you want them to be. If they end up liking the same soccer team you like, it's great. If not, it's fine, you know. But you should always have this thing of allowing the home to be that safe space where somebody can have the autonomy as well in there. Yes. Something.
I think for me, it all goes back to Mark 12:30, verse 12, chapter 30. Love God, love your neighbor the way you love yourself. You know, will this you talk about purity, if I step out my relationship, how will that make him feel? If he did that to me, how would that make me feel, right? Integrity, it's not about show, it's all about, even though they might not know, and I keep on this facade that I am the perfect wife, perfect mother, deep down I know, and God knows, right? So how would I like somebody else to show up for me? I want them to show up pure and true to who they are and to the relationship, right? So because of that, because God wants me to do that, and because I want to love the other person the way I want to be loved, those two things make me do all these things. So I truly value living my values. So it is true and pure. I want that for me. He wants it too. And I will do it for him because I know he's going to do that for me as well. You know, and that's what God requires of me. Yeah.
Lovely. Now, I go to the third question. I think we kind of touched a little bit, but maybe we might touch it a little bit as well. The question number 3 on this particular segment. Can you share a personal experience where you had to navigate challenges in your relationship while maintaining your Adventist values? Maybe to expand a little bit is that, when we go into relationships, it's not a bed of flowers that, every day you're in paradise. There could be sometimes valleys and hills, issues that could arise. So I think that's where I think the question is derived from, experiences where you had to navigate such challenges, or when you find issues, how you navigate around them while maintaining your Adventist values.
Yeah, so I think when you look at where we are as a church, right? There's times when you find there's certain things happening that begin to conflict with your personal belief system. Not necessarily biblical. Okay, let's separate the two. I'm talking about just the teachings of the church. And you have to discuss these things to make sure you're aligned on the same page, right? When it comes to just how, let's say, for example, you're looking at within the church, how women are treated, let's say in the church, right? You look at certain things and you're like, look, I'm not aligning with this, and I have biblical reference frame for this. That's one. Another one is the topic that keeps coming up again of submission, right? Women submit to the man and things like that. And as the deeper you go into the Bible, you realize it's not a top-down thing saying woman submit to the man and man demand submission and things like that. So those things, I personally had to work through that, right, to get a better understanding of what the teachings were, because initially it almost sounded like the man had to be this led here and the woman would submit. But later is when you realize that if a man is demanding submission, there's a problem. He should not demand it. He should earn it, if that's what you want to put it that way. It's not about I need to be submitted. So woman will show that because he knows that the man wants that. But then the man on his hand has to show love, because that's one thing that we struggle with, expressing that, and it has been emphasized many times in the Bible. So to me, there were some teachings in the church that I had a tough time with, and we worked our way through it in the relationship. But whenever you spend time actually having those discussions, you find you actually get more clarity and know exactly what the way you're supposed to go. Yeah.
I'll give an example. And not to say anything about I think it's the way the church presents the man has to lead, you are the head of the family, yada, yada, yada. And not bashing on all that. But then they miss some parts, or it's not, they don't give clear directions for new couples on how to navigate this situation of, now I'm the man of the family, this is what I'm supposed to do, or whatever. And then there are clashes. So an example, it would be something so simple, and he probably is doing it for me. Actually, most of the times, 99% of the time, he will be trying to do something very nice for me, right? But I would have said no, no, don't do that. I don't think we're in the right space to do that right now. And he'll still go ahead and do it because he has to take an executive order, because he's the man of the family, because yeah, I don't know what I want. And this is how I would interpret that. I'm like, no, you're not valuing my opinion. You're not valuing I already told you no, you're not hearing me. And with him was like, he would feel like, what's wrong with this woman? I'm trying to do something nice. The most recent one was a car. He was buying me a car. And if I say that out loud to anybody, they will be like, what's wrong with that woman? Like she's, she's so entitled. But to me, it was more of, you did not hear me. I said, not this one, not this time, or let's wait. I need to take my time. I want to pick out a car that I truly, truly, truly love. And with him, like, this is going on too long. Like he didn't even come out that way, but it's like, okay, I kind of know what she wants. I'll just go pick it up for her. And that became a big thing, right? The car was very nice. I wasn't happy. And he's like, what is wrong? I brought it up. I'm like, no, that's not the point. So navigating and knowing that even in leadership, you have a committee, you have to agree with your board. So this is a company, even though maybe you're the CEO, but the CFO and you have to agree on something, right? In order to have a peaceful and a growing company to grow together, not to grow apart. I hope that answers.
It does. It really does. But I
Yeah.
need to find. I found something quite interesting on the stamping part, and I think generally, um, maybe from the parenting part of it, especially, um, you know, I think this cuts across not necessarily parents in the Western world, but even back home. And you said you have a teenager, right? And that's the age when sometimes if you want to be a little bit independent rather than being dependent on your decisions. And say in the context of I want to go out. Mommy says no, but maybe daddy is always a yes to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And this can be a conflict. If let's say mommy said no or dad said no, and he knows, okay, I can still bargain and go on the other side and see if I can sell my case to him or her.
Right.
If he said
Right.
yes, I can still go ahead without
Right.
the other sides.
Right. No.
I'm making a point here.
Yeah.
So
No. That's
it
very
can create
good.
a conflict, isn't it? So I
Yeah.
said
So
no. Who said yes?
that,
So yeah,
that is very true, and
yeah,
it happens. It does happen, not only with the teenager, but even the younger ones. They know how to manipulate.
yeah,
What you do in that case? Let me just be very practical. You have them come. They'll come to you. Like me, my girls come to me. They know. Okay, I'm soft on that.
exactly.
They'll
Yeah.
come and tell me. I'm like, oh my goodness, just a little makeup. Come on, whatever you want to get. Play whatever. But what I ask them is this: is that so? Why do you want this or whatever? They will tell me, and so I'll ask them, have you articulated this to mom exactly the way you've told me? Have you?
Mm,
A lot of times they'll tell you, you ask them, have you talked to mom? They're like, yes. They will not tell you what did mom say. They'll say, yeah, I've talked to mom. But then you have to ask, what did mom say? No, okay. Now you're explaining to me this whole thing. Did you explain it to her like this? Yes. So what reasons did she give you? They'll tell you. Then like, okay, now you put the reasons in front. Now you've brought mom's reasons in front of you and the kid, and now you're sitting down and like, now look at these reasons. Tell me why among these reasons, what is not valid. And then they realize that they can't play. But if I've fallen victim to this, I'm not joking. I've fallen victim to this. They find me busy. They're like, yeah. I'm like, just go do it. Next thing I know, I've caused chaos. I'm like, what did I just do? Like, no. so, so they come fast. They know. They know. And it's, what you're saying is very right. And they know the words to use, and they will come. Yeah, yeah. So that can be a source of conflict. Yeah, if you said yes and you've
That's
broken an entire thing. There are times when they could come in let's say they have the electronic devices taken away.
Mm.
They come to you, they sit down with you, oh, let's watch the TV together. You don't even know what's happening. And
Mm.
then next thing you know, you're like, hey, I want to watch my show. You
Mm.
know, you go grab your phone or whatever and go and watch your show, whatever you want to do.
Mm.
Now, they will go and watch it. Then when mom comes, it's like, why are you on your computers? Oh, dad said I can do it. It's over for you from there. So
Yeah.
communication is key. That's why communication is very, very important. Because yes, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Anything you want to add?
And comprehension.
Comprehension, yeah,
You can communicate all you want if somebody is not comprehending what you're saying. It's meaningless.
The understanding part, yeah.
Sometimes it's good to ask, so what do you hear me saying when I'm telling you this? What did you hear?
Mm.
So that you can be on the same page.
Yeah, there are
And I
times when I don't even know that you don't know, and you just go like that. That's very dangerous too. So yeah.
I believe there are also some times where maybe you have to sit down where you have to make strong decisions on
Right,
the way forward
right,
without having both sides understanding it.
right,
Yeah.
right,
All right.
But yes, that's true. But
Mm.
at the same time, you have to know your person really well to know that, okay, this is a non-major,
Mm.
decision, because of course you have to trust that they can make some decisions without you, right?
Mm.
But there are some big things for sure that you have to be together to make that decision.
Mm. No, no, we're going to the segment two. We had quite a lot of time on this one. This particular segment, we're gonna talk about healthy relationships. And the first question would be, what does a healthy relationship look like to you? How do you cultivate that in your own relationship? Mm.
yeah. So healthy relationship to me is a relationship where I don't have to pretend. I feel safe.
Mm.
Um, I don't have to have all the answers.
Mm.
I can express my fears
Mm.
without feeling as a man, without feeling because men, I mean, let's just be frank about it. We don't like feeling less of a man. And
Mm.
feeling that in a relationship is the worst place to feel,
Mm.
whereby you are vulnerable
Mm.
and your partner is saying, your wife is saying things to you that make you feel less of a man.
Mm.
Well, let me just be frank with you what's out there in this world. There are people out there who will fake it and tell you things that a man wants to hear
Mm.
and they will feel like that's the place to go.
Mm.
They don't have that at home. That's what ends up happening. So you want home to be that. Now, also on the side of a man, you want the woman to feel safe there. You
Mm.
want her to feel loved. You want her to feel complete, beautiful. You
Mm.
know, she owns that space.
Mm.
It's hers. You're proud of her.
Mm.
You listen to her.
Mm.
And those are the things, those are the values that we try to cultivate. Now, with kids and everything coming up, sometimes the focus might go on the kids,
Mm.
but you also have to take some time just for yourselves to
Mm.
remind yourself of those things. Yes, and not take each other for granted. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah, a healthy relationship is safe both physically and emotionally and financially. Let's put that out there. Some
Mm.
people will be in relationships saying, I had someone tell me, at least they don't beat me. Girl, you are being abused financially, you're being abused emotionally.
Mm.
A slap on your face is not the only kind of abuse that's there.
Mm.
So you gotta be safe all around. Feel
Mm.
safe all around. Feel
Mm.
supported, having a partner that cheers you on. You say, hey, I was thinking about doing this. What do you think? Like, yes, do it. And I love that about him so much. um, Being open, not being scared about what they're gonna think about you. Being truly feeling safe is also being able to come and say, I messed up, and knowing that your love is strong enough to handle your mess, honey, I messed up. What should we do from here? I'm sorry this went the wrong way, but now what? Now what? Honest, I value honesty. I don't like, even in my regular relationships, if I feel any fakeness, any lies, unsolicited lies, I'm out. I want you to come to me truly honest about any situation and trust me to handle my emotions and regulate myself. And yeah, feeling hard. That's the thing that we struggled with. Anyways, trying to do it the most loving way, but at the same time, I felt like he's not hearing me, he's getting better. Mutual respect. In our African tradition and culture, most of the time, men feel like they are the only people who deserve respect in a relationship. If you respect someone, they're gonna respect you back, and if you love somebody, you're gonna respect them. And also knowing that respect is people interpret it differently, what I might view as I'm doing this out of respect, somebody might not look at it as respect, but anyway, finding out what that means to your partner and to you. What does respect look like in both? Not feeling drained. I love that I can sit in the car with Eric and we can drive and we're not talking and it doesn't feel awkward and the radio is off, but we're just together or just sitting on the couch together. It's not awkward. There's no beef. We're just happy. And every now and then he will say, oh my God, or I'll say, oh my God, I read this, da, 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 and we're done. And it's fine. And not feeling confused or scary. If you're in a relationship with a master manipulator, they'll always make you feel confused. Always make you feel like there's something wrong. You self-doubt yourself every move, You wonder, did I say that? Did he say that? What did I do wrong? It shouldn't feel that way. So feeling and fighting fair. People, when they are mad, goes back to what we talked about earlier about getting to know somebody. And I always tell this to young people who are in dating. Sometimes you're lucky, you meet somebody today and you get married and it lasts for a lifetime. But I always feel like you should at least date someone for a full year. See them through all seasons. Unless you're lucky enough to see people, through all their seasons in 2 months, then hallelujah. But like a year, no one can pretend for a whole year.
Something will come up.
Exactly. You will see them mad, you will see them happy, you will see them confused and frustrated. Every emotion in their life or in a human setting, you'll be able to see that. So you'll get them mad and you'll see how they talk to you when they're mad at you, and you're like, oh, if they're calling you names right now, you're in a dating scene, guess what's gonna happen when you're married? Yeah. So do they say, okay, what happened? What did we go wrong? How can we fix this? Can they apologize? Can they say, okay, my bad. How can I make it better? And truly change. I don't know. I think are they kind? Kindness is a big thing. Not just to you, but to all the people in their lives and people and strangers. Because if he's going to open the door for me and then the person behind me, he just lets the door go and hits the next person, then it if we're going, like that means after I become a familiar person, he's just gonna walk through that door and not even open it for me either. So yeah, I think those are good. Yeah.
Those are good.
Yeah.
Maybe picking on something, but I think you're aware of slay kings and slay queens. I don't know. That's a modern term of nowadays. And you hear of people, oh, Nashat is slay king. Oh, Nashat is slay queen. And what I'm trying to get into is that one of the issues of unhealthy that can get into unhealthy relationships is either one or both being selfish. Me, I want this, I want that. We need to focus on my career without looking at the other, forgetting that you're a team of two. And it's often said that once couples one or two is selfish, it kind of brings, if it was a healthy relationship, it turns into getting to the downer part of getting a little bit worse. So how do you, if there's any comment or any points you can share on such areas of such couples that are getting into that?
I think it all stems from still not seeing each other as a unit, as one team. That stems from seeing each other as complete individuals. You do you, I do me, whatever you do doesn't nuko muba mutari kubona nga you're together for real, right? But like if we're seeing each other as a team, whatever he's doing it for that team. And whatever I'm doing it as a team member too. I'll give an example. So I'll give a personal example for us. When we were kids, right? No, not when we were kids. When we had kids, when our kids were little.
We're very
When our kids were younger, we had to make a decision for me to stay at home and take care of the kids. But if I did not see Eric as part of the team, I would not have said yes to that. Right? I felt safe enough to know that Eric got us, right? And he felt like I got us too in this aspect. Because if I said no, guess what would have been happening? The kids would be going to daycare. And daycare, I don't know if there are people with younger kids in here, but like it's expensive. It's very, very expensive. So basically, we would maybe be paying my entire paycheck towards childcare, right? And on top of that, we would always be in a bind of the kid is sick, who's gonna go pick up the kid, who's gonna do, no, I went last time, now it's Ridayo, go do that. I see this in relationships, in people who have not, some of them really don't have an option, they both have to work. But like, I see how it's very draining and straining. But me staying at home gave Eric an opportunity to go to work with us feeling safe that our children are taken care of, and no one is going to interrupt his work day to say that children are sick, come pick up your children, or there's a doctor's appointment. Now you have to call off work, go take the kids. He knew I got us in that aspect. He knew he wouldn't have to worry about dinner. He wouldn't have to worry about, laundry. I got us. And I knew our money is our money. Everything is in one pot. I got a card, he got a card, I am financially safe. I know what's going on. I'm part of the discussions of how we want everything to move. So if you start seeing each other as a team, it becomes easier. But if you don't trust each other to get to be okay or to take care of each other in such times, then it will never work. Yeah.
Yeah, selfishness kills dreams. Let me just tell you, it just kills dreams. So yeah, you'll never move forward as a family if there's selfishness in there.
Thank you very much. That brings to the next question. I think kind of relates to what we've just said. How do you balance independence and interdependence in your relationship?
Okay.
It kind of looks similar from what we've been discussing.
Yeah, so let me just add on to what she just finished talking about, because that way it flows in properly. So interdependence, what she describes was interdependence, right? But then also I realized that as the kids were growing up, she also has her dreams, her career, her goals that she needs to pursue, and she wants to pursue. And so part of the family's role is to look at that from that angle as well and say, okay, so what are your dreams? You know, what do you want to do? So whenever she tries different things, we're looking at, okay, what works for her. Giving her that sense of, I'm speaking from the side of her husband, give that sense of independence is actually a plus for the family. And let me tell you why. None of us are immortal, right? So there are times when you prevent your wife from achieving her own independence or understanding her role in society and life and everything, you're actually increasing the risk twofold of the family. If you're gone, now she's going to need somebody to latch onto to create what she's already known. But if you foster that spirit of independence, and in a safe manner, she's able to experiment, figure out what she's good at, and move forward, you have a stronger family at the end of the day. It is just like in the Bible where our relationship with Christ is not just, when he left, he said, I will leave the Spirit with you, and you will begin to learn things. And that's why we can go and we can preach the way we are, even though we're not with him physically, because we have that connection already, So yeah, so I always look at it that when I see somebody saying, no, she's not going to do this work, she's not going to do work here and there, it hurts me, because I'm like, you're putting your family at risk. Because if you're not around, where's the family going to stand? You have not created enough wealth to perpetually keep them going for another lifetime. So understand that you're looking strategically overall, the whole picture. Give her that sense of independence. She's not going to leave you because she's independent. That's not going to, that fear should be not even on the books. And if it's there's a deeper problem. But just to summarize, independence is important. Our careers are so different. It allows me to go and get into my nerdy engineering stuff, and for her, she's very much in the social front, social activism front. I don't understand it all. Wherever I can, I try, but you allow for that safe space where she can be independent. Yes.
Yes, and also an example, yeah, we're still individuals, even though we are one, but we're still individuals, right? There are things, yes, that bind us together, that we love to do together, and we do those things together. But there are other things that I go because I love him, and I know he loves those things, but he also knows it's torture.
It's torture. For example, I will go to the airport here, sit down with a sandwich and watch airplanes take off and land all day and have no problem. But I know for her there, it'll be like, what are you doing?
Boring. At the same time. So once in a while, I'll go and be with him on his special day, or if he's so excited about it. Like, oh my gosh, this star is coming out tonight.
Let's go outside and stand in the sky and watch. 2 a.m. Yeah.
Means nothing to me. But because he's so excited, sometimes I'll go, just to be there and see his excitement. And sometimes I'm like, no, dude, find someone else to go with.
Yeah.
Or go with the kids.
Yeah.
And that's okay. And there are things I want to be in.
Yeah.
And it's torture.
Like, nah.
And I go and he stays and does his
Shopping.
thing. Yeah. So you still have to create that balance. He can still be an individual and I can be an individual, but it's always nice to have certain things that you share that you both enjoy together.
And maybe, I don't know if we can be brief on this part of it as a follow-up. And we could admit, especially now in the US, how the politics are shaped, and maybe in the Western world. But there are different dynamics of which party is ruling or not, and you can understand which side they fall in. So let's say, for example, the Democrats, is it?
Yeah.
They're more pro-women, pro-what, pro-that, pro-this. That's for the Republicans, I guess, they're a little bit more, man has to have power, you have to do this, you have to do that. And maybe this, I could say, background noise
Right.
that can sometimes influence couples.
Oh, yes.
Way they run things. And on this particular question of independence and interdependence, you could hear maybe, for example, depending on the person you meet along the way, like, oh, for example, she stayed at home, right? And they maybe some other women will be like, how do you even on earth in this country accept that?
Yeah.
So you're in the US and then maybe something is on the other side. You'll be like, oh, maybe this, maybe that. So I don't know how you navigate all these because we live in the world much as we're not supposed to do the worldliness. So maybe that could be a question in regards to.
No, that's a good point. And so for me, right? I look at things very pragmatically, right? And being an engineer, I try to remove a lot of the emotion out of it first, and I look things. Even by doing that, I still find myself falling on the side of not wanting people to be controlled. I find that things work better with autonomy. And I find that that's literally what God actually ends up actually wanting us to do, to have the choice. And so, the political things, that can be fire. Internally, we have discussions. Thankfully, we see things similar, right? We don't agree on everything, right? But we still discuss this, and it's not a big issue. Yeah. But there is some threshold, because there are some views which I cannot tolerate. And she knows, and she will not tolerate, which are totally against the Bible, actually, if you look at it, that really push people to not treat others as fellow humans and treat them as strangers and things like that. So those are things where we really draw the line. So yeah. I'm very diplomatic. She's very straightforward. So go at it.
Yeah.
I mean, there is no one political party that is perfect, like that aligns with everything in the Bible. But at the same time, there is a political party, if you ask me, that aligns with the core beliefs of Christianity. What does Jesus call us to do? Jesus calls us to love people, right? Jesus does not call us to judge people. Jesus does not call us to force people to be who we want them to be. He also doesn't force us either. So who among the parties is going to care for people? The sick, who's going to give them Medicaid? The hungry, who's going to give them food stamps? The foreigners, who is going to help them navigate life as newcomers? And that will guide me,
Mm.
not the party that says, oh, you don't come in here. You have to be a Christian because I am a Christian. You don't have to have an abortion because I don't believe in abortions. You don't have, but then again, they'll say, oh, you can have a gun because you have to protect yourself. And then again, they say, oh,
Death penalty.
you have to have the 10 Commandments in the classroom. But the 10 Commandments call us to love and to observe the Sabbath. Are you going to make everybody observe the Sabbath? And if that's so, which one do you think is the Sabbath? Is that a Sunday or, it is. So there will be things that we don't agree on in every party, but like the one that's doing the greater good is who I will vote for. Apologetically, yes.
I think we also touched a little bit on this particular question. What does prayer, Bible study, and Sabbath observance play in strengthening your relationship?
Yeah. So briefly, because of how we were raised, as we mentioned earlier, prayer has been an integral part of our lives, and not just prayer, communal prayer, also personal prayer is a big deal. I try to encourage my kids to learn how to pray by themselves also, not just a communal one, and so that they build a relationship with Christ. And I also feel like thinking about our communication with God and Jesus as a two-way. We also pay attention and listen to what he has to say as part of the whole prayer process. Yeah.
And Sabbath keeping, it's the only day we're not doing anything that is, it's either work, or if it's not work, it's housework, but like the Sabbath allows us to just be and enjoy each other's company and fellowship and do service as a family, just us as a family or as the greater family of God, So yes, and as we've grown, it's been very meaningful, more meaningful right now than it was even prior. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Sharon, are there any questions that have been passing through YouTube? Because on my side.
Yes. So there were a couple of questions. One of the comments was that somebody thought the chat here on the Zoom was closed, so they went on YouTube. But I see that it's open, so it must have been a technical issue on their end. And then Collins asked, I think, Eric, you mentioned like something, and then Collins was like, what things? So I need to ask him to elaborate and remind you on what statement you said that wasn't clear to him.
Oh.
But keep going in the meantime. Once they get them, I'll post them here in the chat, in the Zoom chat.
Okay, on the last bit of the segment, this is Wisdom for Rwandese Youth. This way you can give recommendations, wisdom, share knowledge, share experience in different formats. So the first question is, what advice would you give to young Rwandan Adventists navigating dating and relationships?
Okay. Do you want to start and then I'll? Yeah.
Take your time. Take your time. Don't feel rushed. Your day is your day. Who God has for you will be for you. Don't settle for less. You're valued. And your person is there. Also pay attention to the green and red flags. What is amplified right now, multiplied by 100 after you're in it, So does he love God? Does he love people? Does he care? Does she care beyond, beyond her looks, beyond ambitions? Ask the deep questions. Don't shy away from that. I know dating is weird right now. I always tell Eric, if something is to happen to him, I don't think I would be able to get back in this dating pool because all the rules are crazy, things are different, but the truth remains the same. You have to be take your time and ask those questions. Some people might not like it, then be like, oh, too deep too soon, but better soon than you wasting your time. And then like the day before the wedding, this person tells you, I don't want kids. And you wanted kids. And you've dated for 2 years, and all of a sudden they're telling you they don't want kids, and now it's over. Yet you'd have settled that within the first 2 weeks of meeting them. Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to tell you something here, and I'm going to just put it as it is. Especially, I'm speaking to the men, okay, on this call, and probably it's also related to the women, but I'm speaking as a guy, and I'm being, you invited me to this forum for honesty, being candid. So I am going to be direct. So when you are choosing your partner, right, make sure you're attracted to them. I'm not even playing games here. You make sure you're attracted to them. Don't try to feel that other things are I'm speaking as a guy. Don't feel like other things are going to be or outweigh whatever that attraction that you're talking about is. You ignore it because you come down. You need to have that initial attraction. You also need to love this person. The reason why I say love is extremely important is if you look in the 1 Corinthians 13, you many of you know this on verse 4 talks about talking about love is patient, love is kind, does not envy, does not boast, it is not proud, it does not dishonor others, it is not easily angered, it keeps no records of wrongs. Love, if you want to know what love is, you go in there and spend an entire Sabbath afternoon meditating on that chapter. All the way at the bottom, it says that now in verse 13, now these three remain: faith, right? Hope and love. But the greatest of these is love. Love is going to be the most important thing, no matter what somebody says. Sometimes you hear, oh, what this other checklist, whatever. If there's no love, wasting your time. Even Christ has said that over and over again. Now, we always have the model of Christ and the church. And you can see like the Pharisees, they were doing everything right by the checklist, but there was no love. You can have a marriage out there that's everything by the checklist, but there is no love. And it will look exactly like that from the outside. Looks like one with absolute love in it, but there's no love in it. That's why Christ is emphasizing love. So make sure you love this person. Do not just go by a checklist. You want to hit a deadline, no. Let it be there that you have that attraction, you have got that love in there. And I think once you do that, you'll start things a lot more clear. Yes.
One more thing about that whole relationship marriage thing. Ask yourself why. Why do you want to do it? Why do you want to get married? Is it because that's what society expects of you? Or is it because you found somebody you want to spend the rest of your life with? Like you feel like you need to be in your life forever. You want to do life with them. Not because society wants you to, not because you're getting old, So your why should be important. And it's okay. I think I want to say this to my single girls. It's okay to be single. Don't feel like you're less than. Don't feel, even men maybe sometimes, but more for us women, sometimes our culture makes us feel like we're less than just because we don't have a man next to us. But you are complete, you are whole, you can accomplish everything and more that you wanted to accomplish. And when the time is right and God sends you that person, it's the cherry on top. But as of now, you're complete. Do everything you want to do before you get married. Because once you get married, yes, it's sweet to have your person, to do things with them, but like there's a lot of compromising. You want to travel, you want to go to Europe. He doesn't want, he's a homebody, he doesn't want to travel. You're still gonna do it alone. Oh, but now you're gonna be like, hey, I'm always leaving. He's always at home now. People are gonna think what's wrong with this woman, So you end up compromising a lot. So, but if there are things that are on your bucket list, this is the time to do it when you're not considering kids, or I have to find a babysitter to come keep the kids, or all that. So do everything that's on your bucket list. When this person meets you along the way, you'll continue with them where you are in your journey. But don't wait because, oh, I don't have a man, I can't do this, I can't go here, I can't, no, do everything you want to do right now.
I think we have some hands up. Judy, are you there?
No, Aaron had just said that if we're having trouble putting stuff in the chat to raise our hands, and it's not open. So I was just letting her know.
I don't know why, because we haven't had this issue before. Let me beware all the participants and not just the but you're able to speak though, so if people are please don't be shy. If you have a question, raise your hand and the host will give you a chance to say it.
Did Judy, did you have any question?
No,
There's
not
a
right now.
question.
It's just people are reaching out to me, asking me to reach out to you guys to open the chat because they were trying to put stuff in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So there's a question on there right now.
There's a question, yeah.
It says, please explain on the few things contrary to the Bible that often lead to mistreatment of people. I would, for me, what I always look at is they said that what's that saying that says that the road to disaster or something is filled with good intentions, or there's a saying almost like that. A lot of times people think that they are doing good, but they're actually in the process of harming people. You've seen the times when growing up, we've been taught we need to take, let's say, the gospel around the world, preach it, and which is really noble and really good, and it's a command that we're given by Christ. But some people take it a step further and feel like that means intolerance for other religions and other people and other children of God in this world. And so what ends up happening is that in that zeal, people can get into office and start putting in laws preventing the freedoms of these other people, simply because we were tasked to spread the gospel and teach these people the love of God. But in that process, we're losing the entire intent of the message. Those are ways that Paul experienced this firsthand, what he was doing. He would have that zeal for what he knew what he was doing was right. But in the end, he realized that where there's no love, it's nothing. So we have to be very careful with that zeal and ask ourselves, where is it coming from? Where is this coming from? Is it our own desire to fix the wrongs of this world and not inquire to God of how we should go about doing it? Yes.
I wonder in what way, like he was asking this question, was it like in like relationship?
Oh yeah, could it be like a relationship question, like in terms of our inner relationship itself?
Yeah.
I believe so. Maybe I can't speak on their behalf, but I believe if I could give an example, maybe to support what I could
Right.
understand from the
Right.
question is maybe if some people, you know how they can cherry pick a certain scripture to justify
Yes.
something.
Yes.
I
Oh,
don't know
yeah.
if that was the mate, and
Very
they were like,
good.
oh, and so they say this and this, da da da.
Mhm.
And then you're
But
like,
like the biggest one is, oh, women obey your husbands.
exactly.
But then they stop there. They don't tell the men to love their wives like the church love that like Jesus loved the church, you know?
Then they ride on that.
They just write on that. Yeah, you know, and
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
abuse their spouses because under the guise of God said, obey.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Or even the women themselves misinterpreting it and obeying their husbands mumafuti, like
Yeah.
when they know their husband is in the wrong and they obey
Yes.
still
Yes.
because God said, you know.
Mm.
Yeah.
There's a verse I'm looking for also, so pardon me.
Think
But
it's
yeah, you're right. Those the yeah. So there are verses out there that have that people like to cherry pick.
Mm.
Uh, let's see here. I'm going to give you one example.
Mm.
Here and you can read the rest of the chapter, but in 1 Corinthians 7, I'll read verse 5. It says, "Do not deprive each other, except perhaps by mutual consent for a time, so that you may devote yourselves to prayer.
Mm.
Then come together again, so that Satan will not tempt you because of your lack of self-control." So a lot of times women use that verse and they're like, yeah, you don't serve me, you know, Satan's coming. But when you read verse 6, it says, "I say this as a concession, not as a command. I wish that you are all as I am, but each of you has his own gift from God, and one has a gift and another one has not." So, in other words, the writer is not saying that this is a command of God. It's like, listen, I'm just saying this, it's me saying it. But people stop there and they don't go and say, listen, this guy was just saying the stuff. He's even saying it's not from God. Imagine. So people take this up and they go and be like, yeah, right there with the Bible. It's right there in the Bible. So hey, whether you like it or not,
People get raped
yeah, that's what happens.
because
So it's very important to look at those verses and understand their context and what
Mm.
is being said, because they will cherry pick. And once they throw the Bible in front of you, if you have not been reading your Bible, you'll be afraid to respond because you're like, oh, I like giving this other example.
Mm.
Very quickly, I'll take this 2 minutes, but you know the story of Adam and Eve, right?
Mm.
I like giving this example. Adam and Eve in the Bible, you know, we hear, okay, Eve went,
Mm.
a fruit, ate, came, found Adam, gave it to him. But the Bible does not say the two were split up. It's us, the people, was they talk. They were together the whole time. You look in Genesis, it says who was with him.
Mm.
Adam was with Eve during that time. So you're not this whole idea that if a woman leaves, goes and does her thing, then Satan's going to find her there. People cherry pick and come up like that. Yeah. Another question: how does biblical submission look like? Okay.
we're
Yeah.
supposed to submit to each other. Me to him to me. If I trust that he has my best interest at heart, I'm going to submit. If he knows I have his best interest at heart, he'll value my opinion. So at the end of the day, biblical submission, we are all in agreement of one thing, not one person taking it, you know, like taking an executive decision without without having a conversation with the other person.
Mm.
So, yeah, and to me, the way it looks like is my relationship with Christ, right? You have that level of communication with Christ. You pray. At the same time, you know that He has your best interest at heart, whatever is happening, and so you're not afraid to be yourself around Him because you know very well that He's got your best interest at heart. Like I said in the very beginning, if a person demands submission, there's a problem already there. This is not something that should be called out on and said, hey,
red flag, run.
you know,
are you a submissive woman?
I want a submissive woman. I want a what do they call them? Traditional.
A traditional.
That's the word they use nowadays. That's the code word. That's the code word.
If you hear, oh, are you a traditional woman? Like,
oh, nice one. I like this one.
We're gonna have to talk about culture questions. So if there's anything culture, we can maybe add it to the question culture question later on. Maybe I'll leave it reserved because there's a question on the way coming.
Good. These are good. Yeah. Very good questions. Yeah.
Yeah, so let me just maybe run to question number 2, and I don't know if she wanted to say anything before I go to question number 2. Should we go to 2?
Which the question number 2 right now?
Yeah, or did you want to say anything before I move on to the next question?
I guess we can.
Here's a question.
Oh, you have a question?
Yeah, we have some questions, but some of the questions they're asking, they kind of related to the ones that are incoming.
Okay. Let's I'll have you lead on this. Yeah.
Question 2: how can our community support and uplift one another in pursuing healthy, Christ-centered relationships?
I think it starts with us, one family at a time. Getting rid of things that don't serve us anymore, and learning new things that work. I know there are certain things that were done back in the day because they served them. They might not have been the healthiest things, but I guess when we know better, we do better. Or like if our environments have evolved, we should evolve. We shouldn't keep traditions that don't serve us anymore, right? And then uphold each other and not look down on other couples because they're not doing things the way it's supposed to be done traditionally. So we are holding ourselves hostages because of people who died long time ago said we should be doing, right? These people lived in a communal area where they had all these people staying together, and all the women worked together to cook and clean and raise children. And the men went to hunt and gather and, bakarajira and all that stuff. And they helped each other. Now you're in an environment where it's just the two of you, you're both working and you're both working, but then you're still expecting, because my mother, my grandmother, like stayed home and took care of the kids and made sure we had 3 hot meals every day and and cleaned and mopped and did the laundry. But your mother, your grandma, was home. She had a maid. She had an auntie who lived with her, and your dad just went to work, and that the arrangement worked out good for them. This arrangement, we're both out becoming breadwinners. So when we come back home, we all have to put our energies together to make sure also the home is taken care of in the best way possible. Working together, because we're working together out. Even in here, we're going to work together.
Yeah.
You're muted.
Sorry, I think you're muted. Can't hear you.
Hi. Yeah, I think the third question is quite a loaded question, which I think there's another follow-up question in the comment section here. But I'll let this one to be the, the highlight, the leading question. So, and I think we've touched a little bit on the culture, but I believe we can expand more on it. Are there specific challenges unique to Rwandan culture that couples should be aware of, and how can they overcome them? And should I add on this follow-up question that was sent here?
Yeah, I can read it over here. Yeah, we can. Yeah, and then we can add it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So for me as a Rwandan man, we have a lot of good things in our culture, but there are things that I think are crippling our men in society, and these have to do with, to me, what I call life skills, simple life skills, right? Go prepare your own meal, have certain dishes that you can do on your own. There's nothing demeaning about that. You can go and make your own meal. There's nothing that makes you less of a man to go out and fix something for yourself. Basically understanding the operations of what's going on in the home. There's nothing wrong with that. Doesn't make you less of a man. But for some reason, feel like just because I cannot turn on a washing machine, I'm a man. I don't understand why, but I feel like you should actually be embarrassed because you have no less things now.
Oh man.
And so those are the things that I feel that general life skills, right? Understanding just your way around a meal, cooking and things like that. And the reason I say that is that you, as a man, right, especially here in North America, you want to be. I value being independent, like an independent person, right? Self-sustaining, learning how to survive on your own. You're out there, right? If you cannot survive on your own, there's something, and everything in this world is available to you to do. There's something wrong with the whole picture, right? So I view that, especially when it comes to cooking. I don't cook the best meals, but I go in the kitchen, and I'll make my entire protein week or whatever I need to do. I can do that. And Mark I will add other things, but on this question here, culture tells women to be strong and independent, and men to be emotionally open. Actually, do you want to just jump onto the first one first, and then we can talk about this together?
I mean, I feel like we are evolving, but like, of course, it kind of creeps in here and there, Then you hear your mom's voice telling you, your grandma's voice saying, "Son, you're doing this or you're not doing this or whatever." It kind of comes in now and then, but like part of those things, I think the whole culture of umugore nagira ijambo, like little things like those that creep in, and then the woman completely loses her voice because umugabo yavuze, and you don't have your voice, and then you grow to resent your husband because culture demands you to be quiet and say nothing because your husband has the last word. We can ditch those things. What else? Oh, being super secretive. People, the Rwandese people, I think among all African cultures, I feel like we are the most secretive, most kwihagararaho. I don't know how you can call it. You can say that. Very proudful people. It has its place, but at the same time, it can be used as a weapon. Because if you're in a relationship that's abusive and you are a traditional person or uphold values or you don't share what's going on, or then that your abuser is going to ride on that and abuse you more in isolation because he knows you're not going to tell anybody. You're not supposed to tell amabanga yo murugo. You're not going to share with anyone, but please get help. Even if you don't talk to someone in the community, talk to a professional and tell them what's happening and have some professional counsel to help you build a better relationship or have a happier marriage or relationship. I think those are the big ones for us. Yeah.
So there was one which was
The
like,
culture tells us when women to be strong and independent and men to be emotionally open. Nshimiye, aren't men more drawn to peace and support, and aren't women attracted to strength and direction? I can have a different view. Yes, they will say, oh, be strong, blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, we have this toxic masculinity that we also abide with, and women also go for it. Like we internalized it, where we feel like, okay, even though like somebody's saying, oh, you gotta be strong and independent, but you still feel like if you're in a marriage, your husband has to be providing anything that has to do with financial stuff. I've listened to couples in Rwanda and other places, even here actually, where their finances are not together. And I'm not saying one way is good or bad, but they have separate finances, and the husband is expected to take care of all the bills. It doesn't matter if the woman is making more than the husband, but she still feels like he's the man of the house. He has to pay for all the bills. That's still wrong. And as a man, also, he feels like, oh, that's how it's supposed to be. I'm the man of the house. And he's struggling to make ends meet just because of that toxic masculinity that we have internalized, feeling like I can't ask and go. Oh, they have that saying, ifaranga ry'umugore ni ry'umugore. Like, are we together or are we not? Are we partners or are we not partners? We gotta choose what is what, right? As women, if we are saying we're partners and we're in a partnership, we should work together. We should feel like it's for both of us. What's his is mine and what's mine is his. And that's where putting things in one pot comes in, unless you have totally bad spending habits or whatever. I don't know, where you feel like it won't work, but it's the best policy. You dream together. You both know what you all have. There are no secrets. That's the honesty part we're talking about. No secrecy. If you ask for money, you're not even asking because you know it's here. This is what we have. It's all here, But to piggyback what you said, yes, we're asked to be strong and independent, and men are supposed to be emotionally open. But I think it's all because we're demanding from each other what we don't get from each other, maybe. I'm thinking that the woman is demanding for you to be emotionally open because you've been taught to be strong, to be, never show emotion. But at the same time, because you've been taught that, now you don't even know how to give support. Like she's coming to you saying, I had a very hard day at work, and you're like, suck it up, Baraka, because nobody ever told you, oh, I'm sorry, to show empathy. I'm sorry you had a hard day. How can I make your day better now? Or, so then the other person feels like they're not being supported emotionally. And now because you're giving this strong person, they're demanding for the soft person. So you gotta balance it out. Some days your woman is gonna need you to be a shoulder, and some days they want you to be a pillow, to cry on, and some days they want you to just carry them. So figure out what calls for what. And for women also, the call for being strong and independent can be harmful to us, to the point where we feel like we cannot trust or fully trust our partner to take care of us or to be there with us, and then for us And then those trust issues end up carrying through, and the other one's like, but I got us, and you're like, no, you don't, and then now he feels like less than a man, and then yeah, peace. Everybody wants peace. It's not just men who want peace. Nobody wants a house that is in turmoil. We all want peace. So if we give it to each other, if we learn to fight fair and listen and comprehend. If you didn't understand what they're saying, ask, what do you mean by that? How can I support you in this journey? Or do you just need me to listen? Or do you want some advice? How can we do this together? If you know your team for sure, you won't have these issues. You will communicate your way through all of it.
Yeah. So just real quick, yeah, men, yeah, we will gravitate towards peace, towards some softness. We will gravitate towards that, and that's one of the things you want to look for. You don't want to be out there. The way I respond to a man is not the way I'm going to respond to my wife. There's a softness you're looking at. If she's honest with you, that doesn't mean that she's being strong like a man is or whatever. She's being honest with you in that, because there's just something in us that we're wired like that. And I don't know about women being attracted to strength and direction, but I've seen that happen. I mean, I don't know. I'm just looking at empirical evidence. They're attracted to people who lead, people who take ownership, take charge. So I don't know if that is a thing that, I mean, as a man, that's how we are seeing things. What I can say from a man's perspective, you give me peace, give me support, there's not much else. That's what they look for, right? And I've talked to a lot of men. That's exactly what they you think they all recite the same thing. That's exactly what they're gonna say. Yeah.
And the one thing they forget, if you give it, it'll come back to you, right? If your wife is at peace, she's gonna give you peace.
Right.
Really, the people who demand it the most are the ones who cause the most trouble at home. Or leadership and direction. If a woman knows, my man got this, he's taking us in the right. They're not gonna fight you.
Right.
Their soft side, the softness is gonna come out, and you'll be at peace. Yeah.
Maybe still on that, I don't know how to put it. It's in a way where people commonly say that you're in a relationship, but there's a strong distance, a big gap. And I think you've had some couples where when there are conflicts inside, that sometimes might not necessarily be reflected on the outside. But until you know, let's say, for example, there could be strong, I don't know which example I can give, maybe where couples sometimes have strong ongoing disagreements where even they kind of separate rooms. And, if you're outside, you see maybe they come to church, and then we see them together. But in the parish, so in the matrimonial home, they is quite distant. They're never close. So I don't know whether it's something you can advise or recommend to such couples, especially the young couples, or even those who are considering to, and there's some people actually believe that can be a good therapy. Like, if maybe your partner is not in sync or you're having strong differences, sometimes you have to give yourself some bit of space, but these become red lines where
and I think the reason why that ends up becoming a really big deal is because both people who are emotionally involved in that situation are making the decisions. That's when you need to have a professional relationship counselor who has no emotional investment in the relationship to help you through the process. If they recommend that as part of an entire overall program, that's fine. But when an individual does it, there's always some other underlying issue that's causing that might be influencing agreeing to that decision. And that might drive a wedge apart. Because the reason why you have that same bed is because it's very difficult to be upset with the person you go to the same bed with every single night for 1 week, 2 weeks. At the end of the day, you'll have to talk it out. And that's really the whole purpose of that. But when you have physical walls separating, then it becomes even easier not to reconcile.
Now you have an emotional wall and a physical wall
in between.
So 2 walls are harder to break.
Yeah. So there's more friction to overcome. The reason we have the same spot is so that you can, whatever conflict arises, you have the time to cool off, think about it reasonably, and then come to a conclusion.
And you both have to learn your conflict resolution method.
Right.
Because it is very important. And we don't talk about these things when we're dating or whatever. And then it becomes like a really big thing. Sometimes some people want time and then come revisit, when and I'm kind of like that. I want to process and then come back and talk to you before I use words that I will regret later. And he wants to solve things right away. So there's a compromise. We came up with a compromise. I'll say, I am not happy with ABCD, but I'm not ready to talk about it. And then sometimes he forgets and he wants to come talk about it right now. I'm like, no, I'll tell you when I'm ready, So at least now he knows we have a situation. But because he's the one who offended me, he has to wait until I am ready to solve that, to resolve that. And if I'm the offender, because I know he wants to deal with it right away, I'll deal with his situation right away. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah, Sharon, I don't know how much time do we still have. But I think there's a question that has been popped up. If you can let us know how much time we still have, maybe we can know how to move forward. So there's a question in the comment section here. It's why do I fall in love with chaotic dynamics, but not when it's peaceful and predictable? Let me see.
How to break that pattern.
Okay. You able to see the question?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So on this one, first of all, the assumption is that the person is falling in love. There are times when what's happening is actually more of how when you have a dopamine hit to a situation, and you are looking for that high, and that wears off quickly, and it goes right back to normal, and you're looking for the next one, and so it's that dopamine that kicks in. It's like it's this thing of this rush that you get into, and in the initial stages of love, it's hard to distinguish that with actual love, and so you have that problem, right? Understanding what love truly is, again, go back to the Bible and looking at that, and then trying to separate the two, because when it's peaceful and predictable, right, that's when things should start now going even deeper. And when the deeper you go, the more exciting it gets. Sometimes the surface ones can really be very chaotic, and you get that rush, and you don't want anything stable. You want to see all that movement happening. So I think it's separating those feelings and what love truly is. I think there's a start, and then from there you can narrow it down. So yeah, I'm gonna say something right there.
Yeah, I'm interpreting it differently. I'm assuming that the person who's asking, he's drawn to chaotic or toxic relationships kind of thing, toxic people. Sometimes it's the familiar. If you've been around that, or that was your first, I'm not like your entire life has been chaotic, or it's in relationships that are like that, it's familiar. Something that's familiar is usually easy to deal with. You know how to handle, oh, when they get mad, I do this, and when and then you keep going. But like when you're in something that's nice and peaceful, you don't know what your role is. I had somebody clearly tell me, like, she left a person because he's too good for her. I was like, what? Like, yeah, no, I don't know what my role is. I'm usually the voice of reason, and now I don't know what my role is. You deserve peace. You deserve predictability. You deserve to feel safe. So you should reframe that in your mind and tell your mind, tell your heart, I'm at peace and this is fine, and I can learn how to be at peace and feel loved in a peaceful environment. You know, chaos is never good. It might feel exciting because you know what to do, but that's why they always end, because it's chaotic. So if you want something better, reframe that and tell yourself that you deserve to be in a stable, loving, peaceful relationship.
I think, thank you very much. It comes to the end of our lovely discussion.
Thank you.
And I believe I don't know if there's an open thing where we can say hello to each other now that we've come to the end, or we close with a prayer. I don't know. Sharon, any advice on how to end on a positive note? Sharon there? Yeah, but thank you very much. I believe there's quite a lot we've learned, and this could be something we'd want to go on and on, but I believe time would not accommodate us to go on and on forever. But I believe that's been insightful, and we want to really thank you on behalf of ourselves who are here in the UK, maybe also those who are across the world, they're in the US, Rwanda, and Uganda, and the rest of East Africa. We really, really appreciate this, and we wish you the very best as you move on in this chapter and raising the kids. And I believe you're an inspiration to us. So we're moving. Turimo gutera karenje mu kanya.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're really inspired, and I believe there's quite a lot we've learned. And having you is like, our big brothers and sisters that we look upon to. And yeah, we thank you and thank God for you coming and accepting to participate in this.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for doing this.
Thanks
Thank you for
having us.
your intentionality, and you're doing amazing things. We also wish this was going on when we were young.
Yeah.
It's very good. So what you are doing, generations from now will be thanking you for these things. Trust me, this is very good. So the stuff you're doing. So thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah. I think Judy is clapping.
Yes.